Live. It says I'm live. I never believe that it says I'm live, but baby darling, it says I'm live.
It does. I didn't get a notification.
You're not getting a notification. Well,
But
I
here
do
we are.
believe I am
I'm
here.
live.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tribal Forum number 31. I'm Michael Noland. I'm back in the chair and I'm loaded for bear because the decline of rock is everywhere from stadiums to streaming to lousy lyrics and wishful thinking. It's no wonder we're going to get a second Spinal Tap movie this fall. That's right, in 2025. And what is it called? It's called Spinal Tap The End Continues. So, is that where we are today? That's my big question for tonight. And before I get into what I've got prepped for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of shout outs here real quick. Won't take very long. It'll be painless, I promise. And I do this as people are filtering in, so we can have a larger crowd once we get into the meat of things. And then once I make these shout outs, I'm going to read some comments from Dr. Insomnia, who can't be with us tonight, but boy, he loaded us up with a couple of great comments. And it was the perfect intro for tonight. And then we'll get into what I've got prepped for you. But I did want to give the following people who gave us super thanks on our last live stream. You guys are keeping us alive, I swear to God. And I'm so thankful. All of these wonderful people are able to have a, be able to give the channel a gift. And I appreciate that so much. But I also appreciate you folks who are watching. I don't care whether you're in that position or even have that inclination. I appreciate you supporting the channel by watching the stream. And if you got a little bit of an inclination, give the stream a thumbs up. That way, we'll get a larger audience on replay and everything. And if we get enough of them right now, we'll even get a spit out as the stream is going. Wouldn't that be wonderful? All right, so the following people gave us super thanks. Michael Boswell, $5. Ben Scheidecker, $5. Bill Hawkins, we'll mention him again here in a minute, $20. Just the Facts Man, Dan the Man himself, $10. Rockin' Robin Bird, $3. Thank you, darling. And Storm Cop, $5, followed by Deuces Wild, $10. I also want to welcome two brand new tribal elders to the channel. I barely announced one of them on my last stream, but that's Bill Hawkins, the same Bill Hawkins who gave us that wonderful super thanks. He has joined the channel members, and a brand new one that just joined either this morning or last night. I'm not sure which, Brian, but Brian Quinby, two brand new tribal elders. And I'll have my next members only video out within a day or so here. I plan to shoot that video tomorrow and have it out by either tomorrow evening or early the following day. All right. So I said I'd start off this stream with some comments from Dr. Insomnia because a whole lot of what he had to say we'll be covering tonight. Okay. So he had no idea what I had prepped, and I had no idea when a view would be coming in this soon. I mean, he practically.
Novus Nick gave us a super thing.
Oh, Nicholas, thank you so much. And what does it say? Love you, brother. Oh, I appreciate that, Nicholas, so much. Of course, Novus Nick and I share a panel over on Royce in the House every Sunday evening at 6:30 p.m. right after I stream at 5 p.m.
Nice.
And we're talking West Coast, folks, right? So do the math, right? So like if you're on the East Coast, 5 p.m. is going to be 8 p.m. for you, right? But we stream over on Royce's show later on. Okay, like I go from 5 to about 6:05, 6:10, and then we start streaming live on Royce's, and we have a great panel over there. And I have a lot of respect for everything that Nick and his opinions, even though we often clash, right, brother? But that's okay. It's all done in a great spirit. Now, before I get to Dr. Insomnia's comment here, I do want to bring out Agritar, or I hope that's how you pronounce it, Agritar. He had a great comment. He said, bands like Motley Crue that never rehearse are the ones who are killing rock and roll. A band that only worries about money and not its fan base. All right, and you're hitting it right on the head. Okay, that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. All right, and then we go on to Doctor Insomnia, his treatise on the whole situation. Here he says, "Looks like I'm not going to miss this. Looks like I'm going to miss this one. Got to work." But I think the problem stems from the breakdown of rock's infrastructure. Smartphone and streaming eliminated the need for physical product. Little by little, the record stores vanished with nothing physical to promote. It became impossible for new bands to get on radio, which became increasingly less receptive to what? New music. The only ones who could fill stadiums were the big names, who already had big catalogs, like McCartney and the Stones, but with fewer young bands to replace them. Things he's already brought up about 30 things here that I've covered on the channel. That's why I was so enamored with this comment here. He says, with fewer young bands to replace them, the inevitable would happen. Death began to whittle down the number of bands. Tom Petty, the Allman Brothers, Motorhead, Bowie, the band, all vanishing from the musical landscape with no one to replace them. Just tribute bands. And I could name a couple right there, couldn't I, Doc? He goes, and unless some genius emerges out of nowhere with some new instrument or technology that'll change the sound of everything and able to translate that into memorable tunes the way the Beatles did, we can only enjoy what's left and get used to being a niche genre. Genre, I should say, genre. Michael, you know better than that. In much the way jazz, blues, reggae, classical, bluegrass are, after all, Bach and Beethoven never recorded one note, and both are doing fine. All right, now I'm going to stop right there on his comment because I got a comment about that. That's what I've been kind of hinting at for the last year. I spent the first couple of years on this channel just ranting and raging over the music business, the concert business, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm still raging against the machine. To this day, it'll probably be on my grave, a big to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, this big, I didn't do that. Stop that. But you know what I'm talking about? I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. And he's talking about that bottlenecking I was talking about, right? So when he mentions these bands and these artists that passed away, there's nobody to emerge because those very bands, tragic that they died or the artists died, those very bands were part of the bottlenecking process, right? And then he talks about it becoming a niche. And you know what? If that's where we're at, then more power to it. Then let's roll up our sleeves and start doing what jazz did when it became a niche. There's still tons of creativity in jazz, right? Let's just roll up. Let's accept our role, whatever that is. You can, and if we keep our identity, you cannot tarnish the power of the name unless the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gets its wish, right? So something's got to be done about that. All right. Now, so I love that whole set of comments by Doc. I thought it was wonderful. Now, for as far as my side, what I've got able to print tonight, I took a look at a couple of articles, and they're trying to identify the problem, right? Why isn't rock what it once was? I mean, after all, it ruled the roost, according to them, over 50 years. I give its best days from about 1955 to about 2005, right there. They're saying 2010, so 55 years, right? That it dominated the charts or radio play or sales or something that would still identify it as like the top listened to musical art form of its day. They're saying as late as 2010. Kind of disagree with that. I think that's a little late. But they talk about that record labels are less inclined to take a chance on new rock bands. Now, we're talking about this bottlenecking. Of course they are, right? It says that this can be attributed to several factors. The popularity of rock music has waned over the last few years, with pop dominating the charts, right? Or old rock bands are still touring and selling out venues, but it's harder to sell tickets now because there aren't as many younger fans attending the shows. All right. And then the third kind of factor they identified in this portion was music radio stations no longer play any type of new music or promote it during their programming hours unless they want an artist on their show, or if they're connected, by the way, to new what's going on with the concert circuit and promoting. That's the one thing that all the local rock bands in my area promote all of the time. And I'll get back to that in a minute. I just saw that baby. I'm going to get on over here. I see I have to leave the channel on this device in order to get to my notes. It, oh, help me, folks. Well, I know nothing about birthing no streaming channel. Okay, so what does Michael Boswell have to say here? The foundation of the recording industry and rock radio is dying. So goes rock and roll. It is those two industries that are what pushed up new acts. Radio. So you're identifying radio and recording industry. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. And all the subterfuge came out of that, right? And with things like Napster happening, pirating happening, artists not able to make the money they could on albums that they did happening, all of that happens, doesn't it, Michael? And you're absolutely right. Thank you so much for that super thanks, Michael. Michael, you're always there. I appreciate you. Michael and I don't ever always agree, but we're in total concurrence here. And I love that. I what I have to say here today, folks, is just my kind of spiel, and I will get to some of your comments. So type out your responses, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I possibly can. All right, so here we go. Oh, yeah, I wanted to get back over here to this window where they're talking about older bands rocking, but still can't, they're finding it time or tough to sell tickets now because younger fans aren't showing up. It goes on to say many rock stars have found other ways of making money from their passion. All right, from touring around Europe with their own bands or play where that's a lot more popular. It's less of a hard sell for them to do that, and they can make an awful pretty penny doing so, right? Or playing duets with other musicians who have their own discographies, right? And we've seen a lot of that as well. Then they talk about the decline of album sales and radio airplay in favor of digital downloading or streaming. The first part of this, it says the decline of album sales and radio airplay. The trend has been around for years, first of all, but it has gathered steam since, here's their magic year, 2010. In fact, streaming services like Spotify, Apple would be another, have grown so much that they now account for more than half of all music played. And we've talked about artists aren't making money on that either, right? That's part of the problem. They're not making a lot of money on album sales per unit, and they're not making a whole lot off of streaming services. They're getting ripped off right and left as organizations are making billions of dollars on their back. So I've always been against that, right? Now, besides that, stop that and cooperate. I'll tell you when you can not cooperate. We get to the point where in the article they talk about lyrics. All right, lyrics. Here it says rock music has been less successful with younger audiences as they age out of their teenage years. The audience for rock and roll has aged out of its teenage years and it is getting smaller, while the audience for pop has gotten bigger. And that's true. As the original generation of rockers got married, had a couple of kids, many of them developed a more domestic taste and was open to pop. And you also had a lot of rockers that were embracing pop at the same time. They still felt like it was kind of rock and roll to them, right? One reason why this might be happening is that many younger folks stop going out these days because they're too busy working. So they don't have the time or the money left to pay mortgage, rent payments, things like that. So I've often thought that, well, this young, maybe they're talking about the extreme younger crowd, you know, who's, just gotten past maybe working at a Denny's and now they've got like their first serious job. Maybe that's who they're talking about. Because yeah, often seen, but I've also been talking about people from their late 20s on as probably the people who are supporting the live concert. I just saw that. All right, let me go on over there. This is a good place to stop because we're going to get into some stuff here. Let's see who showed up out of the blue, darling.
That was RBR, the Retro Beat Repository.
Hey, good to hear from you and see you there, Retro Beat. It says a cake. A, everything's blurring out. Oh, equals. Okay. A cake, flour, eggs, etc. Rock, guitars, drums, bass, synths. It's okay to accept it and keep it alive. Use the recipe while hoping for nice surprises. And yes, and right as you knead in the dough for the bread, you got to bake in some blues, right? Because there's the anchor point. I agree. Thank you so much, Retro Beat. I appreciate that so much. You guys are
Awesome.
solid rockers, man. I tell you. Okay. Oh, and a big hello. I saw that Storm Cop's out there,
Yeah.
Oberheim's out there. Who else did I see? Oh boy! As soon as I do that, I'm gonna miss some people. But the usual suspects who show up before this gory mess, this new horror show translates before your eyes. I love you guys. I appreciate you all being in there. I saw you at the last second, Storm Cop, and I was switching over. I didn't have time. As you know, I was already about a minute late starting my stream. All right, so I appreciate you guys. All right, so let's get out of this for a second and let's talk about lyrics. Now, where did I have these starting from? It's probably right about here. Yeah. Okay. Let's start a little earlier than that. I think it was right about there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Now this talks about the lyrics aspect. See, you've got first of all, you've got a music industry that's dominated both rap and hip hop and pop in general, right? And some rock that is generated by computer generated loops, artificial drumming, artificial bass playing, artificial, a lot of that stuff. And it's done often on a laptop in a serious studio, probably for the biggies, right? But not unakin to what a 9 year old can do on GarageBand on an Apple iPad. All right. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not better, much better than that. But if you want to know, you can hear some amazing loops and pieces put together by new wannabe 9 year old rap and hip hop artists, right? And it's all generated loop. We've cut that stuff down until I can't even, deal with it anymore. But here they're talking about the lyrics aspect. So to me, musically, a lot of the pop music today is lacking a serious musical performance by real breathing human beings. And then when the lyrics get kind of crazy, well, this report said many rock bands, especially in the mainstream, fall into the trap of using uh, overused phrases and repetitive lyrical structures. This can make their songs feel generic and uninspired, nonsensical or unclear meanings. Some bands, and this is talking about bands, but we're going to talk about artists in general here too, folks. So many rock bands, or some bands, particularly those in genres like metalcore, may prioritize strong riffs and melodies over meaningful lyrics, right? While some bands have consistent lyrical styles, others might have songs with vastly different lyrical approaches, leading to a disconnect between the music and the lyrics. Okay. And some bands, especially in genres like pop, punk, and alternative rock, may focus on simplicity and accessibility, but this can sometimes result in lyrics that are too basic and too simplistic. All right. So now, with that in mind, where was I here? Starting that. Yep, it was the very next slide. Nope, wrong direction. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the lyrical content that's out today by some of the biggest artists out there. And I just grabbed some off. I had to do this is I had to do a search on, folks. I don't listen to this, you know. I'd listen to a snippet of it from, you know, I'd see it. Where's that? How does that work, right? So, but it's very interesting, okay? And some of this ain't bad lyric writing. A lot of it is, but at the very least, you almost see like almost a selling approach in the stylizations of the lyrics. Yeah, this is popular. Let's do that. You know, it used to be that rock songs would have one or two street lingo words. You know, I met a gin-soaked barroom queen in Memphis, right? And you know, and that was a record breaker. Whoa, what? Oh, do you know what that means? You know, that whole thing. And to the point where you've got a cuss word, this word, shite word, this word in every sentence on some of them, and I'm not going to repeat any of those. As a matter of fact, I got to be careful when I'm reading one here. But this is by Kanye West. Don't let nobody with the power to sign ever tell you you ain't got the power to rhyme. Sign ends with an N, rhyme ends with an M, E, but the and it's not even a it's not even a real rhyme, yet he's using it. So either he's a genius for using the word rhyme in a non-rhyme line, or he just didn't know better, right? Here we've got by Carly Rae Jepsen. And this may be the one I better be careful with. Well, I'm going to be careful with all of these, but I threw a wish into the well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked to you as it fell, and now you're in my way. I'll trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way. Your staring was holding ripped jean skin showing, hot night wind blowing. Where you think you're going, baby? All right. A lot of people are turned on by that, right? And to me, it's almost a limerick. Da, 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 you know, I met a old man who was attendant. You know, there was this old lady from now, you know, whatever. You know, you get that lyric, and that's what I hear in a lot of rap, a lot of hip hop anyway. Okay, so then we get to Drake. And I'm just being careful, babe. I'm just being careful. You got to be careful here. Okay, he says, and I'm never going to waste a ting, shorty. I do it how you say you want it. Them girls, they just want to take my money. We'll get right to this. David L., super thanks for 20 bucks, buddy. I'm going to get to you. Let me read this one and then I'll switch over. All right. So we'll start again. And I'm never on a wasted team, Shorty. I do it how you say you want it. Them girls, they just want to take my money. They don't want me to give you nothing. They don't want you to have nothing. They don't want to see me find you loving. They don't want to see me smiling back when they pre music drop. Gyal wine up den buppa dis all suma controller. Drake from Canada, Beanie Man from Jamaica, Dawan Ya Amada Zaga. Ooh. Does it send chills down your spine? We're going to get back to this point. I want to take a look at this wonderful new super thanks from um, David L. Good to see you out there. David, you're a fairly new acquisition to the channel, aren't you? Or at least maybe you've been around a long while and you're just now starting to interact. He interacts a whole lot on my regular videos. He's all over the place. He says, Michael and Kimberly, here you go. Least I could do, and way overdue. Oh, David L., thank you so much. I appreciate it, brother. I really do. All right, so now we get on to this next example. Yeah. Shall we call it disco breast? Because I don't want to use the word they got here. Starts with a T. All right. This is the one I got to be careful with. Yeah, but I say hi, you say hi, we stay high. You look pretty, yeah. I'm sweating from head to toe. I'm wet through all my clothes. I'm fully charged, nipples hard, ready to go. I'm sweat. Okay, you get the idea. All right, the man's in heat. Okay,
Oh, hon.
isn't he?
Mrs. Wild just gave you a super thanks.
Oh, thank you, Deuce. I'll be right with you here. I may have one more example. I'm going to get to your comment. Let's see. Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm going to hold this one off. I'm going to get to your comment now because then you're going to see a transition, folks. I promise this whole setup has a payoff. I swear to you. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Deuce is Wild. Deuce is Wild is always on the list here. And a $10 super thanks. Thanks, Deuce. He says, and the rock and roll rebels are riding tonight, cruising till daylight. Again, yes, they're rocking this town for the time of their lives, wishing this night would never end. And John K. Wisdom for y'all. Steppenwolf. I love it. All right, brother. Very good. Now, here's one more example, and I guess this is the one I got to be careful with. Yeah. I'll read this at a slower clip, folks. But it's by Jay-Z, rock god. 1-900 Hustler, Siegel, holla at your boy. What's the problem, Shorty? Yeah, what up, man? I'm the only blanking from Brooklyn out here, man. I'm trying to lock the spot down. Holler at me. All right, hold on. Hover. Line 1-900 Hustler. Siegel, holler at your boy, dog. All right? So, we've got, yeah, as you guys can hear, we've got an idiot who's spinning donuts out in the middle of the street. And I'm just hoping to God he doesn't come through my fence. All right. Real life. See, this is where you need to be at the tribal forum. It's interesting. That shit started happening right after I read those words. Okay, so now you've got an idea of what's hot out there. Trust me, I could have used other lyrics, but I like to keep this a PG-13 stream, all right, for the most part. But you kind of get the drift. And this is true of, remember, this is true of a lot of rock bands these days, not the ones I follow. Well, we'll talk about that another time. Okay, because there is room for simplicity. There is room for repetition. If the repetition builds to a crescendo and adds power instead of a drone that goes on wook 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 wook, because you got to have an 18-minute piece to keep them dancing on the floor, pumping sales for alcohol. so that they can go do a line in the bathroom or whatever it is that they do. That's the drive, right? And a lot of rock stars are guilty of that too. So I'm not pointing fingers at the rap community per se. My brother loves Eminem. I don't care for the guy. I see that he's a smart writer, but I'm not a fan of him. And my brother's a classic rocker himself. He's a singer songwriter himself. He's performed live with his own bands, right? And he likes him. You know, he's got maybe a wider palette when it comes to pop music, maybe than I do. I don't know, but he likes it. So I'm not cutting it down. And if you're out there going, here he is, he's trying to nail hip hop and rap again. They're the enemy, and he doesn't even know that they're really rock and roll. Saint John Sykes told us so, right? But what has happened to lyrics such as these? This is where I come from, folks. Lyrics like these. And like I said, there was plenty of a whoop bamboo kind of stuff going on, usually to build, and it was at its infancy, and so you almost had an infant approach to rock at the beginning. But within a few short years, we got lyrics like this. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass. They slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva Om. Images of broken light which dance before me like a million eyes. They call me and on across the universe. Thoughts meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox. They tumble blindly as they make their way across the universe. Okay? John Lennon, the Beatles, Across the Universe, that's the Let It Be version, right? Let's go back an album before that. How about the White Album? Let's. Everybody goes, yeah, but that's John Lennon. He was a genius. Oh, okay. Paul McCartney. All right. How about Blackbird? Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. And when you knew that the song was about the plight of Black women in the 60s and their emancipation on several levels, not just because of skin color, but because of sex and skin color, right? This is what McCartney wanted to express. This is what we got. All right. And then, you go, oh, yeah, but that's the Beatles, man. That's the Beatles. You know, they're geniuses. You know, all right, even Paul McCartney is genius. You can't give me another example. How about this? Now, think of all those lyrics I just read by the other side of the line here, right? It was an April morning when they told us we should go. And as I turned to you, you smiled at me. How could we say no? Oh, the fun to have, to live the dreams we always had. Oh, the songs to sing when we at last return again. Slipping off a glancing kiss to those who claim they know, below the streets that steam and hiss, the devil's in his hole. I don't know about you folks. I really don't. I got to tell you, um, those kind of lyrics send chills down my spine. It just sent chills down my spine as I was reading them. I could feel the power of those words. There is no doubt that, and by the way, that last song, Achilles' Last Stand, for those who didn't recognize it, 90% of you did. But people say that Robert Plant wasn't a great lyricist. Uh-huh. I've done a whole treatise on the song. You can find it in my Led Zeppelin playlist, folks. All right. It's a genius song. One of Led Zeppelin's very extremely top five hits. It's got to be best pieces anyway, right? But then we get down to let's see. But everybody makes a deal, Yeah, but Michael, you're an old fart. You don't know what you're talking about, despite your evidence, right? Because I hold strong. I hold the line. Because see, I'm so happening. I'm such a current kind of guy that I think that the pop music that is out there today is absolutely not only valid, but superior to anything that you could challenge me with. Oh, yeah? All right. Well, let's see here. Let's talk about Taylor Swift. Oh, did you guys see that one coming? Few of you did, I'm sure. Okay. Um, how about Down Bad? Now I'm down bad crying at the gym. Or his hand so calloused from his pistol softly traces hearts on my face? Is this the direction all you mothers out there are sending your kids to? Oh boy, sounds like, I don't know, a wet dream of a MILF. What can I say? How about who's afraid of little old me? You should be. Oh, well, you got to get the feminine empowerment there. Touch me while your bros play Grand Theft Auto. Now, remember this woman, well, at last count was 35. Is she 36 yet? She's not a teeny bopper, folks. And her fans are teeny boppers, right? My friends all smell like weed or little babies. Turn you on yet? Does it send a chill down the back of your spine? Or how about this? I'm an Aston Martin that you steered right into the ditch, then ran and hid. I can't believe some of these. We would pick a decade we wished we could live in instead of this. I'd say 1830s, but without all the racist. Whoa. Did she write that one by committee? I don't know. You smoked and ate 7 bars of chocolate. We declared Charlie Puth would be a bigger artist. I scratch your head. You fall asleep like a tattooed golden retriever. Would someone please tell Taylor Swift that even if you tattooed a golden retriever, it would still be golden? You don't tattoo the hair, dimwit. And oh, I love this one. You're not Dylan Thomas. I'm not Patti Smith. This ain't Chelsea Hotel. We're modern idiots. Well, at least she finally came to the light. All right. Comparing Dylan Thomas to Patti Smith. Yeah. All right. So that's kind of where we're at these days, folks. And I want to get a or a taste of what you guys have to say about this. All right. Am I off my rocker, first of all? Is Am I insulting anybody out there by coming up with my basic premise here that there is a very big lacking in what goes on into making the music to begin with. A lot of shortcuts being taken.
Oh, hon, you just got another super.
I'll get right to you, Ben. Thank you, darling.
So sweet.
I'll get right to you. Okay.
Oh.
So are we at that point where the music, I mean, there was a time when I'd like a cricketing, whatever, in a field of grass blowing. They'd send out sound engineers to go in a cricket field and record that shit, right? Nowadays, they are like cricket, and it's probably the same damn recording of the sound engineers they sent out in 1940 to record that damn cricket. So there's nothing new under the sun. And on top of that, a wanting in lyrics at the very least, right? Now, I know a lot of the coolness of the lyrics is understanding the street lingo. I'm not a total fool, but what do you guys think? All right, Ben Scheidegger, thank you so much, brother. I really do appreciate this. The working class musician today has to go out and play live. They can't survive any other way. Furthermore, new bands never get the opportunity, he said, to open with the bigger bands like they used to decades ago. A valid point, Ben. I thoroughly,
I agree too.
yeah. Kimberly
Yeah.
says, yeah, she
Oh,
agrees
yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just they're when when you're part of the bottleneck system, and see, that's what I'm saying. Uh, it is a matter of money. And a lot of people scrambled to make. McCartney was an early example of this, Ben. A lot of artists were early to scramble to make up for the fact. See, McCartney had great success with the Beatles in the 60s, great success with Wings in the 70s, and intermittently throughout the 80s. And it's right around that time where he comes back out. Was that 89 when he came back? You know, he wouldn't tour right after the death of John for obvious reasons. Then he comes back. I saw him on that tour. Flowers in the Dirt. He was promoting that album and everything. And around that time, he started to see a cessation, of album sales and everything. And it's around that time they started embracing corporate sponsorship. And corporate sponsorship is designed to do what? To make money. No, it's designed to make a lot of money. Why go corporate unless you're going to make a lot of money? And corporations in general do very well. All right. And what they do is they coordinate activities and everything. So you've got, or they go into bed with people who coordinate activities. So if American Express is sponsoring Paul McCartney, of course the next step is to get on over there and talk to Ticketmaster. And while you're over there, have a chat with Live Nation, right? And all of you got to get your cut. McCartney's already said, I want to make X amount. Now you guys got to decide to divvy up the pie, and you'll bitch and moan while you're making your plans because Ticketmaster will say, we're fighting, uh, you know, uh, we're fighting all the scalpers when they're the actual scalpers, and so we need a cut to fight that. And Live Nation said, but we have to answer to the venues, to product sales at the venues. Everybody wants their cuts. Parking, airports want a cut. Motels, hotels all want a cut in the restaurants around the a certain perimeter of the arena wants a cut. Everybody wants out. We need a bigger cut. And they all fight and decide. And before we know it, we're paying $2,500 per ticket. So $5,000 to see our favorite band, right? Isn't that silly? $5,000 to be able to go and see the Eagles. Not even front row and center. That's like four rows back, right? So that's where we have wound up with. All right, so I want to get back to here. Let's see if I can go up a ways. Let's see who we've got here. Parker Balfour. Pete Townsend wrote songs for male teenagers to fight to the Beatles. Wrote songs. Oh, for teenagers to fight to the Beatles. Wrote song to fight to. Sorry about that. I'm going to start all over. Right? Pete Townsend wrote songs for male teenagers to fight to. The Beatles wrote songs for teenage girls to scream or argue or disagree. Sure seemed like it, you know? Actually, you know what was good about the Beatles is, and John and Paul specifically had a plan. Is we wrote a lot of our early songs from us to you. That's why there's so many songs with me and you in the title. She loves you. I want to hold your hand, right? Uh, and they were cute and irrepressible as Ricky Nelson ever was, right? Only there were four of them and they had a new style, and they were English, you see, yet not too English, right? They were Liverpudlian, by God. And they had it all together. But you know what they had a whole lot of, Parker? They had a ton of talent. And the biggest talent is their songwriting. But a lot of people go, yeah, well, they're a pop band. They had a couple of good songwriters. Maybe George did a few good songs, but they weren't the greatest band. They were a great band. They knew exactly what they were doing. They could live and breathe together. And if you don't believe that, even with them in their winter of discontent, you got to watch Get Back. I guess either on Disney Plus or get a copy for yourself, done by Peter Jackson. Uh, I would give my left something to be in a band like that, uh, because I've been in worse situations in bands than what goes on in that movie, right? All right, so TJR is in the crowd. Good to see you, brother. David Gilmour co-wrote the Dogs of War lyrics. Uh, Really, the Dogs of War won't negotiate. The Dogs of War won't capitulate. They will take, and you will give. You must die, so that they may live. I love that. Those are the actual lyrics, brother. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you know what? Are you talking about Dogs of War from Molly Crew? Is that the? Because I it's been months since I've listened to it. I liked it. I liked it. I gave it a thumbs up and everything. And I did want to say, with everything that I talk about Motley Crue, don't get me wrong. I think they were a top notch band when they first came out. I do want to get some vinyl from them off their early albums for what they did. It just didn't. The hair band movement didn't get me for whatever reason. Uh, Maybe I was in a mood for a decade. I don't know. It just didn't get me. I'd be listening to them on the radio. I wouldn't turn the station if they were on, right? It was just like, oh yeah, yeah, it's another one of those hair bands. I couldn't tell you who did what song out of about five or six bands during that era, right? But I, yeah, well, oh yeah, I still hear them. I still hear those songs on the radio today, especially if they're out touring, which we were talking about before, by the way, uh, TJR. We were talking about the I lost my thought here. Can you
Don't do
believe that?
that. You lose everything. Just don't lose your mind, okay?
I'll try not to. I'll try not to.
Okay.
But anyway, I was going to say, getting back to the idea, I just didn't get into the. I just didn't get into that whole hairband thing, right? And so, but that doesn't mean they're not a good group by any stretch of the imagination. My problem with them is, see, I also grew up in an era where you liked the people in the band. You wanted to be one of the Beatles. You fascinated yourself. If I was Paul, or if I was John, or if I was George and I was there, or I want to be just like them. I want to look like them because all the girls like them, right? So you've got all that going. Okay, so let's get on to something else here. Michael Boswell, and I know how it's to be. There's nothing more for you, and some are young and some are free, but I think I'm going blind, not recognizing the lyrics there, brother. Uh, but I'm not a lyrics master, am I? Let's see, what else do we have here? Uh, Dennis DeYoung said it perfectly on Mr. Roboto. The problem's plain to see. Too much technology. Machines to save our lives. Machines dehumanize. And that's one of the mantras for my channel. The bottom line is I am dead set against AI. AI is everywhere, and not all forms of AI. I just am a proponent of keeping it stupid, right? Keeping it enslaved, but empowering it and enslaving us, making us a people who are more lazy, who are willing to be entertained rather than to be encouraged to create, produce, and that can be whether it's children, music, whatever, to bring forth, you know, our personal great great story, I didn't make a lot of money, but I raised three great kids, whatever. But see, if we're just sitting here like automatrons, just watching the screens all the time, what happens? We lose our drive. It's hard to even get up and go garden in the backyard, let alone go out and take a nice long walk, right? Or to get out into the real world. We talked about how a lot of young people aren't going out, partially due to finances and things like that, but they're not going out. Good Lord, when I was young, going out was the thing. You worked a job that would allow you to go out. You worked a job around the fringes in your late teens, your mid-teens for me, actually early teens for me, right up until I was about maybe even 21, kind of working ancillary jobs, not really looking for something uh, too serious because I was still playing, right? Okay. John Patterson, good to see you, brother. Rock and roll was a phrase coined by DJ Alan Freed, yes, 70 years ago. It evolved into a statement of free will, agreed, and creativity of individual. I love it. The mortal self has been quantified, not its soul. And that's something. And that gets kind of to the point that I kind of skirted around at the beginning of the stream, and what I kind of wanted to all get back to. Let's say, just for the moment, that yes, Rock's better days are done. Now, in future streams, we're going to take a lot of this information along with some things we've talked about, and we're going to talk about possible, at least partial relapses, getting better, ways that we can get rock and roll out of the intensive care unit. But let's think for a moment, or let's play the devil's advocate, which is difficult for me to do emotionally, right? Let's say that rock's better days are dead, just like jazz had its, you know, golden period where everybody on the planet was listening to jazz. And then, you were very much in the rock and roll era. It was subjugated to, yeah, a side class, a niche, as one of you said, a niche class. So let's say rock and roll has been reduced to a niche class or class here, right? That's where we're at. Okay, so my example of jazz doing just as well, if not even more energetic these days as it did in its heyday, is a good analogy, in my opinion.
Oh boy.
There is still tons of people creating
Storm
great jazz.
just gave I got a membership.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I-
a gift.
Okay, so
Sweet.
right. Thank Storm Cop, always a man. James,
He's awesome.
yeah, James has done so much. You know what, James is probably the earliest person that ever gave me a super thanks, and he blew me out of the water with it, by the way. And I went, huh? And it would still take me another year to even wrap my whole head around that. Uh, he has sent 5 Michael Noland, the bottom line gift memberships.
So nice. He is. Yes, he's so
Now,
generous.
let's see, you could be the lucky recipient.
Wonderful.
Allow gift memberships. Yeah. Okay, good. So it's talking about you should be getting a flag that says you could be a lucky recipient. Rock and Robin Bird, if you're out there, she knows a little bit about what I'm talking about because we were talking about this on Royce's channel. Okay, so because we were under the assumption that if you gift 5 memberships, that you can go, oh, I'll take one. Oh, I'll take one. And we're not sure that that's what's happening. What I'm seeing here on Kimberly's thing is you could be a lucky recipient of Michael Nolan, the bottom line membership with access to exclusive perks. And then it says allow gift memberships. So, and then I think it goes the algorithm. See, we're talking about AI, folks. I'm not totally comfortable with this. I wish that what James could do here, but if you get a chance to take it, please take it. All right. Like I said, tomorrow I film my address to the tribe. You know, my address to the tribe, the state of the tribe address, right? And we're going to kind of just sit down and talk and everything. And that's coming. Like I said, I'm going to film that tomorrow, have it out either late tomorrow or early the next day. All right. So, curious, want to know, take advantage of this. It's my firm intent to keep as many of you who take advantage of a free membership. All right. I want to make it worth your while. And so the membership side of the channel is going great guns. James, thank you so much. Storm Cop, it's always good to have a cop when you need one, right? And I appreciate you, brother, so much. All right, so let's get back to this whole idea of, oh, I see Zephyr. Let me see.
Yeah.
I disagree that rock is done. Okay, good, good, good. There are, oh, this is a good, I'm glad I saw you there, Vance. I disagree that rock is done. There are great bands out there, but you're not going to hear on radio. And unless you are in the know and search for them on streaming, many won't find them. Right. And you know what? Vance, excellent channel. And I fully support Vance's channel. I'm not only a subscriber, but I also go there, right? I watch his videos. I don't always get a chance to, because I'm off on trying to. Usually, I'll see his video that I go, oh, I've got comments on my own channel I got to attend to. I'm sure Zep knows that, but he's also very in tuned still to the concert scene. So when he says that is absolutely true. And you know what? I don't think it's done, Zep. I think what I'm saying that it's glory days may be done. We all have a golden era, then we drop to a silver, then a bronze era. It's the way of life. It's the cycle of the planet. It's the cycle of civilizations and everything else, right? And rock and roll may very well have had its golden era. But I'm also talking about like jazz, like other there's still barbershop quartets out there, right? Really pushing the limits of what a barbershop. I don't know why I can't say shop. It's not the Three Stooges. It's not barbershop, right? But on what they can do. Updated the art form continues. And so if we are there, then let's get to that acceptance level, right? And start producing from there. That should get rid of the bottlenecking because then once we've accepted our day is done, and the fact that a lot of these younger audiences are showing up less and less for the older bands who get older and older, right? So there's going to be a clash there. So a crash is coming for the concert scene. It's coming. Every year we get more and more dangerously close to the crash of the concert scene as far as having super stars up on that stage. And what will fill it will be the superstars of other genres of music who have been recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as superstar rock gods, like JC, who I just read some of his lyrics, right? And so that then will dilute rock and roll or what people think rock and roll is, right? So I'm saying if we're at that level, then let us be. What was it? Brian from Tokyo Records was saying. He used the word. What is it? I had it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Uh, anyway, we represent curate. Curate. He used the word curate. And I had a slight exception of how he was using it, but I understood the concept and everything. A curator is somebody who represents the owner of something or an institution that all the marbles belong into, and they are the presenter to us and everything. So that would make me and you curators, like Rock and Roll Museum, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be a museum to rock and roll as an art form and its many subgenres that don't include hip hop or rap, right? So somehow we got to get, so that becomes a current fight to me. We've got to fix that somehow, historically, somewhere. Somehow there has to be an understanding of what's rock and roll and what's not. And I fear that the masses are slowly accepting and then do they become dumbed down? Because I've given you a ton of examples why I don't believe these stars belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why they being there and then their style of music. And then we got rock stars that go, well, yeah, we're rock hip hop, you know, and which is fine. I mean, if there's enough rock elements to that. And it's like Queen, talk about barbershop quartets. They sounded like a barbershop quartet at times. All right. So that's fine. I can see that, but there's got to be enough rock and roll elements to it for me to even allow that. But that doesn't make, because they hinge some of their sound on rap or hip hop itself, rock and roll. So we got to get to that point, and then we've got to be able to be willing to be a curator. And in a way, I kind of see this channel kind of turning into that. I want to. There's so much to talk about as far as this wonderful art form. We could get into like music, the way that songwriting change. There's things that younger fans, because that's what we want. We want younger fans to kind of come across. Now, like when I was raising my youngest daughter, uh, all my other kids were grown, right? Uh, she was our December child, or what? September child. Actually, September child. And she, you know, so she was almost like an only child, even though Kimberly and I had raised a multitude of kids, right? So, but the thing is I took the time to educate her, and she listened to music her generation listened to right along with it. But to this day, she listens to a lot of classic rock and roll, and it frustrates her that a lot of people in her generation show a true resistance to it. But she has said that when they do hear it for the first time, it shakes them. It shocks them that they even like it. And I think when younger people do like, you know, rock and roll, get down there in volume. Why are you doing that? It just doesn't want to. It doesn't want to cooperate. All right. But when they get the bug, then they're fans for life, and that's the future for rock and roll. All right. But on top of all of that, like I said, rock and roll ain't quite dead, and it could still be around for another couple of decades. Maybe not at the top of the heap, I should say, but ballad or valid. Why did I say ballad? Valid, right? One of the top three, one of the top four styles of music that's currently being listened to. Like maybe it's like ABC back in the day against CBS, but at least it's still on the map, and we could still see movement forward and even new subgenres established, and it still be a valid breathing thing. What do you guys think? All right. So let's see. We got some time here. It's only 6 o'clock. I was thinking I was running a little long there. Wanted to get to some more of your comments here. Let's see.
Come
Oh, can't say I've heard of the negative approach. I'll have to look. Okay, this is the middle of a conversation. I'll let you guys continue with that. I okay, and there's another one. Uh, Okay. Oh, yeah. Brendan Oberheim, uh, tribal elder, and often more than that. How you doing, brother? Down under. Uh, he says, I disagree with AI for months and months. I've been asking to help to achieve this sound on my synth, and no one bothered to help. Just thumbs up or liked. I asked AI, and now I have that sound. Okay. And you know what? If that's what AI is, uh, I I have no problems with that. I've used the example, Brandon, many times already, but not lately. What they did with the Revolver album, that was through newly developed AI like, very like technology, the ability for an algorithm of some sort to go in and search out and isolate certain sounds from a what was even a 4 track uh, recording. And of course, back in the day, they'd start off with 4 tracks. They'd put the drums, bass, guitar, bounce them over to 4, add some more. They'd lose the original uh, happenings, recordings of the bounce. And you had to live with that bounce, the mix of that bounce, because you'd record over the original recordings so that you could get more happenings on a record, right? And this is what they would do. And so remixing an album, you still could only remix the 4 basic tracks or the 8 tracks or the 16 tracks. I think that's what the Beatles finally wound up with on Abbey Road was a solid state 16 track board, right? So, and by today's technology, that's infant, especially a 4 track. There's even Beatle recordings on 2 track. Okay. So with this technology, they went in and they searched for, they could go to track 4, and there's where we see drums, bass, and guitar, right? I use that example. They could search out the guitar, pull it off, record it over to track 489, endless tracks now, right? Search for those drums, put it over on track 200, because then you're going to isolate the cymbals and everything else, and then turn that into a quad sound, right? And then get that bass, put that in its own, maybe, we'll do some stereo effects. We'll bring that over and give it 2 full tracks. And pretty soon you have a 48 to 60 track representation of a 4 track recording, handling all the new special effects and everything, right? So I'm all for that. I love technology. I love my smartphone. I love my iPad. I love my computer, right? I dig what it can do. But at the same time, we got to get to the point where this algorithm isn't creating for us, isn't stealing and mimicking human creativity. And so all it can do is regurgitate what it is copying. And so we become mindless children listening to it, and placated, won't go out, don't interact with each other, rocking our chairs, watching our screens, watching our phones, watching our TV, right? Less and less social interaction. Accepting is so easy this way, isn't it? Life becomes easier. After all, you do have to go to a job, and real people suck. A lot of people feel that way about their
Yeah.
job. I know I did.
Yeah.
Royce is in the house. Oh my God, go on. There you go, brother. It's good to see you. By the way, I've already mentioned earlier, on Sundays I stream. The one day that I've chosen now, Wednesdays tonight is probably the one other day that I've streamed more or less, more than say a Tuesday or a Monday or a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, right? Sunday and Wednesday has been, but I haven't picked Wednesday yet. Sometimes I'm exhausted and I'll choose a Thursday stream instead. Or I'll have an energy the day before, so I'll stream on Tuesday. Or I'll promise you a bonus one and I've got to get that one out, right? So that's how I handle all of that. But on Sundays, that's a definite show. The Tribal Forum every Sunday night at 5 p.m. On the Pacific Standard Time kind of variant of timekeeping, right? So adjust accordingly. And I go for about an hour. I usually clock off anywhere from 6:05 to 6:10. I think one time dangerously close to 6:15. That gives me just enough time to readjust my equipment and show up on Royce in the House, who is the brother channel to this channel, right? And be a guest panelist over there. Nick, earlier in this stream, gave us a super thanks. He's on that panel. We have Dawson over there. Vance has even shown up when he can. Vance is very busy, but Vance, I know I can speak for Royce here because Royce and I have talked about, well, we wish we could give Vance, right? But I know you have commitments. So it's not because Vance thinks he's too good for us. When he can, he's shown up over there, right? And of course, we got just the facts man, Dan over there, the longest uh, member of the team, short of Royce himself, right? And yeah, Chris Elliott's over there. I already mentioned Dawson. So and that starts at 6:30 again, PST. California time. California is the place you ought to be. Yeah, right, in your dreams, baby. All right. Dredge Eye. Whoa, I might be in for some trouble here. Okay, Dredge Eye. As long as you're still alive, remember, keep your dignity, stay true to who you are until the day you meet your end. It's not over. Let your heart love and always be love. Oh, God, I love this. I love this. Absolutely. Yeah, you know, people will say, "Take it easy, take it easy." Yeah, I'll take it easy the day I die. Got a big rest coming. Don't want to push it. Not looking forward to it. So I agree with that. At no matter your age, you're only. I hate this term, but it kind of has some truism. You're only as young as you think and feel, right? Okay, it's not. Don't let any physical things hold you back from maintaining your spirit and your yearning to learn, right? I learn all the time. I'm readjusting my core matrix all the time. I still haven't got it figured out. Nobody on this planet does.
Oh, Michael Boswell just gifted a membership too. So
Oh, wonderful. Oh, he said 5.
yeah.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I'll say this and then I'll give you a mention here, Michael. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. We want to get the memberships up because as I get my memberships up, there's going to be more videos coming. All right, I've already made that announcement. I'll talk more about that in the video I'll shoot tomorrow. Thank you so much, Michael. So if you get that again, you'll get a little flag that says you could be a lucky recipient of a Michael Noland bottom line membership with access to exclusive perks, and it'll say allow gift membership.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
He sent 5 memberships.
That's what I just said, baby.
Okay.
I thought you heard me.
Oh,
So she said he sent a membership, and I said no, actually 5, but she didn't hear me say that. She was probably typing a response or something at that moment, right? Okay. Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. So, in the end, where does that leave us? That leaves us with a choice, where we demand more from organizations that claim to represent what rock and roll is, where we demand reasonable price tickets, uh, where we demand venues be set up that honor. It's interesting because they said that a lot of the older bands are having trouble selling because the younger crowd isn't showing up, and yet that's who they've been directing their sales at for the last 10 years, actually ignoring original fans. This is an ongoing problem we've talked about on the channel, right? uh, Original fans, as they age, often with a fixed income, or they're putting kids through college at that point and they're looking toward retirement in the next decade, decade and a half, or they're so damn busy at work and trying to promote things and Girl Scout cookies and blah, 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 and everything, right? So those people, when they make you know, a purchase, they're guarding what they're purchasing. And the older you go up in that line, and especially original fans who are on a fixed income, and concert prices have been ticketed out beyond the stratosphere, where only the young, cool type execs. And I know, yeah, it's not just that. You know, people go to great extents to see their favorite bands and everything, but the price is often way too much. I just saw a video that it now cost. How much was it for the guy to show his to take his family to Disneyland, babe?
Like 1600 just for the day.
For the day. Yeah, $1,500 for the day, you know. And the guy was saying, I couldn't buy a lightsaber for my kid, you know. But see, Disney prices is all connected. All of this is all connected. And if we're not careful, you know, yeah, well, here's where it's going to go. I think we're going to go to Avatar shows. I think that's the bottom line, where the future of rock and where it becomes a museum piece. Look, here's a wind up representation of what the Beatles were, you know, and they all get up and go, "I want to hold you," you know, like a time machine. McCartney did. What was the song? He did a video where he was nothing more than that, a time, you know, frozen in time in some future museum. And this robot comes along and somehow activates him, and you know, he starts playing a song. What is that? So agitate. I know it's not the word, but I love it. I love it. Stay, you know, active. What was that? He was in his 70s when he put that one out, you know. But it was great, a great song, and embracing for, you know, future technology and all of that. David L., long day for me too. The bottom line is a great way to decompress. I'm glad you see it that way, brother. All right, let's see here. You might like, okay, Dredge Eye, again, you might like these two. Everything is indispensable. Every person is worthy and valuable. Don't give up on your life. Fight for what's right. Live on. Keep searching for the answers. Song, We the United. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And you should find inspiration in your life, Dredge Eye. Am I saying that right, or is it Dreg Eye? I don't know.
Yeah, Drag
Dreg Eye,
Yeah.
Dredge Eye. You know, I didn't know. You know, it just kind of took me there. But yeah, you know, find inspiration in your life. You know, you're feeling a little depressed, or you know, you're just in one of those, you know, where there's a fog upon LA. You know, and your brains have lost their way. You know, you got to get yourself out of that fog sometimes, and you know, looking to discover new music. We got to be willing to do that. You know, as classic rock fans, we've got to look for new music. We've got to look for new bands, and I'm going to be directing a lot of my energies in the next coming years to new happening bands. Otherwise, I just become part of the problem, don't I? Complain, complain, complain. But I've also advocated for new bands. And I always mention these four because they're the ones that come up, you know, off the tip of my tongue. But I've also mentioned other new bands that have intrigued me that I think could be part of a second wave. Of course, I'm talking about Rival Sons, Dorothy, Dirty Honey, and Greta Van Fleet. You know, God, put those four bands on some world tour. Maybe we could get some happening there. You know, all their music, wonderful, great stuff. Greta Van Fleet even speaking to, I think, the crowd that they're aiming for, and with those other bands, you know, doing this, you know, concentrated tour, that might be a cool thing. What do you guys think? Let's see. If I got just about everybody, I know I didn't get everybody. Let's see. Ben Schedeger, he says, Deuces, I think I would be crazy. I have thought of the idea of Michael taking calls from the audience for part of the show, but the trolls would be a problem, right? You know, hi, Michael,
Yeah.
long time, long time listener, first time caller, right? Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? I'd love that. You know, we had a show called Dialing for Dollars back in the day in the Bay Area. You know, and he'd get up. You know, they had some old black and white movie, and then during commercials, he'd get up there, and it would go up what $10 a
Yeah,
day.
he was a great
Yeah,
you know,
Pat. I'm not thinking of his name.
You're right,
McCormick,
McCormick.
Pat
Yeah.
McCormick, you know, and he'd have calls coming in and everything. I used to listen to Jim Eason, uh, on KGO, same thing. He'd end this show every time with "Do what you can, but behave yourself." A fellow North Carolinian, so I always thought that was cool. I was always drawn to him a little bit more. Of course, he was born and raised there. I was born there, raised in California. That's the only difference. All right, guys, we've been going for well over an hour. I got to a whole lot of you. Now, if you see this stream later, folks, what I'd like you to do is give me some ideas on what we could do to make things better, the things we've talked about. Or is it time? Let me know. Is this time to be more to turn it into like to give it its historical due? I'm going to come up with a better way of saying this because it's in my head, and the only way I don't want it to sound like it's a dead that rock and roll needs to be a dead museum. I think it needs to be a live museum. Somehow we've got to come up with a live rock and roll hall of fame, something like that. Somebody else needs to, you know, uh, take that mantle and do it upright because I think it's far too late for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been enemy number one against rock and roll for 2 solid decades. All right. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Like I said, I'm going to get off tonight. I'm going to review this and then, of course, get some well earned rest. And then I'm going to shoot my new members only video. If you didn't get a chance to grab that, it comes your way. Grab those memberships. I certainly appreciate it. It will be my honor to keep you. All right. And to those who gave us all the shout outs today, new memberships count just as much, man. It all goes into the same pot, brothers and sisters. A couple of you got very creative. And you know what? That is supporting even the inner workings of the tribe. I appreciate that. You know, that is what a tribal elder and a tribal chieftain would do. And I appreciate it so much. All right. I'm Michael Nolan, or have been all day. And I'll see you on my next stream. That'll be Sunday. Look forward to the members only video, and then following probably the next day or day after that, I will shoot my next video. Oh my goodness.
A super
Oh, good Lord.
Oh my god.
Storm Cop, I mean, he is the John Wayne, ain't he, babe? He's, you know how they used to have the John Wayne punch? That's the first thing. James, thank you so much. I want to read this. This is for Just the Facts who couldn't make the stream tonight. We are the tribe. Oh, baby, man. Oh, that is perfect. Thank you. And Dan, if you see the stream later on, we missed you, but we shouted him out. James, you are
so sweet.
absolutely. Oh man, what do you do with that? Yeah, $50 from Storm Cop. After all that he's already done, you are awesome. I certainly appreciate it. Good to see you. Oh, we are. When this is from Royce. When our rock icons, many of whom are still putting out great music, are no more. That's when we will have a renaissance in rock and roll. And it's certainly looking like that. There's got to be a cessation of the bottlenecking, uh, you know, because, Roy says, when, are no more. So he's talking about them passing the Great Veil, right? And you would think, well, no, they can retire and live, out their life. But they don't seem to do that, do they, Royce?
You know, yeah, well, they don't have to die, Michael. Well, yeah, they kind of do, if you think about it, don't they? I mean, they kind of do because we've seen so many of them kind of go out to roost and then they're back. Right now, and I've actually seen a couple of videos that aren't bad, except for it's very stripped down. Justin Hayward and the bass player again. Why John Lodge? John Lodge. Am I naming the drummer again? God damn it. Anyway, so they're both out. The bass player and Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues are out touring right now. Justin Hayward sounds good. His voice sounds good. His playing, not as good as like say at Red Rocks in their day. I noticed some slop to his playing. Not bad. It's not going to wreck your evening at all. Matter of fact, I kind of like the snakes and snacks that aren't quite like the record and everything. And so they're out there after saying, "Well, that's it. We're done. We're gone." You know, no more new Moody Blues. And then they usually come out and say, "Well, I didn't say I wouldn't tour as a solo artist, or I didn't say I wouldn't tour as a solo artist a second time, or a third time, or fourth." It keeps going on, right? So, good point, Royce. Love it. Glad I got to your comment, brother. All right. I want to thank each and every one of you. First of all, frontline, those who are viewing, we've got 86. Right now, I'll get a report on what our peak was. 86 at the end of a stream is a wonderful amount of people. To have given us a thumbs up. Let's see, how many do we have? We have 62 watching right now currently, which means we have, we had 62. One of you just blooped out. And I know our peak, viewership will be higher than that. I saw it up at least into the 80s. So I want to thank you all for, choosing to spend part of your afternoon, your evening, your morning, wherever you are, because the audience, the tribe, because that's you folks, the tribe is worldwide. I'm Michael Noland. This is the bottom line, and I will see you in my next stream. Night all, and thanks to all the super thanks. I appreciate that.